Farewell, neighbors and your mad universe, you truly were a good friend. Stop all the clocks and remove the shrimp from the Barbie, we are losing one of the greats. Neighbours will stop production in June, ending 37 years of communal turmoil, everyday dramas and Lou Carpenter's uncanny ability to attract women. It's an unsettling turn of events for those of us who have never known a world without Ramsay Street, and I, for one, am gutted. A guide to today's talking points, straight to your inbox. Email address is invalid. Thank you for subscribing. Sorry, there was a problem. Neighbours has been such a constant in my life that it's hard to believe it won't be there anymore, even if I'm no longer a dedicated viewer. That it was continuing on without me felt good and just, and I dip in every so often to check on Carl and Susan, going strong despite some rocky patches, and see if Toady is still hanging in there. He is, as if checking in with old friends. My depressing first job after graduating was a 10-minute walk from my flat. I used to nip home at 1:45 p.m. to cling to a piece of student life by watching Neighbours as I ate a sad sandwich. It was a reminder that there was more to life than that boring job, even if that boring job suddenly did take up 40 hours of my waking week. It stayed with me as my career changed too. When I was figuring out that I wanted to be a writer, the tale of Phil Martin's stint as a romance novelist haunted me. In the post-Helen Daniels, but pre-Margot Robbie era of the late 90s, he and his daughters lived at the Daniels residence, and he nervously sent his first manuscript off to rave reviews, only for his agent to realize that he'd subconsciously plagiarized bits from other writers to create one great romantic Frankenstein's monster of a novel. When I recently adopted a puppy and watched her twitch and yip in her sleep, I'd think of Bouncer's Dream, a sequence that saw the soap's golden Labrador dream of marrying the border collie next door. The entire cast was reportedly mortified by it, and David Lynch might have shied away from taking Neighbours quite so far off-piste, but it's gone down in soap opera history. The lesson is clear: never dismiss your strangest ideas, they might just work. As a teen with an unsettled family life, I was really drawn to the way that no Neighbours family was a fixed and finite unit. Though it wasn't until 2018 that the show featured a gay marriage, families were frequently fluid as kids were adopted by neighbors and couples weathered cheating, splits, deaths, amnesias, and reunions. Family was a fierce bond, whether it was the one you were born with or the one you chose. Death stalked Ramsay Street as it does all roads. For a while, the lesson was that dying was the end. Who can forget Jim Daniels' heart attack and Helen Daniels later expiring on the sofa? But this mortal coil became a little stickier as Harold Bishop's death in 1991 turned out just to be a spot of amnesia, and Toadie's unfortunate bride Dee, who was driven off a cliff, returned decades later. Of course, she was then thrown off a cliff, again, by her evil doppelganger, but even that didn't kill her. Harold's wife Madge passed away in an emotional episode in 2001, but remained devoted to her husband as a ghost. The dead never really leave us, Neighbours seem to say, especially if they were lost at sea. Perhaps that is what we should cling to. The soap may be on its way out, but that's not to say that in a few years we won't find out that it simply bumped its head, forgot who it was for a bit, and is on its way back to us. Even if our catch-ups are sporadic, I'd be glad to have it back. After 37 years, Neighbours really did end up being a good friend.